Salam alaikum. Alaikum salam. How are you, my friend? It's been a while. It seems like a while to me. I hope you feel the same way because, uh, communicating, interacting is a joy. We are people who like to socialize, share ideas, share thoughts, share each other. And I'm encouraged to be here with you again on another episode of Tuko Riadha, because that's where things happen. That's the platform. That's the launching pad. And we've had a good journey together. We are on episode 60. It's exciting. I hope we have more of the same down the road, sharing things, sharing thoughts, sharing wisdom, love, and one another, because that's what we do. We do that in what I I termed a few episodes ago, the rapturing, man. When you rapture, when you let go of yourself, you populate the world, and the world is a better place. Before I proceed, I think I want to have a moment of silence and reflect and mourn the death of an icon, a legendary character, a man who was taller than life, a man who traversed the world of basketball. He hails from the Republic of Congo, formerly Zaire, formerly the country that was so big back before they got subdivided by politics and all that stuff. I'm talking about a 58-old man who died today, Dikembe Mutombo. He's a Pan-African. He's a philanthropist, great basketball player, the man who made himself relevant. He raptured himself in many ways than some of us would ever do. And when it came to basketball, this man commanded and sometimes demanded respect by wagging the finger. Not in my house, when he blocked the shot in basketball. He's a legend, he's an icon, he's a man that the universe will truly miss. And when I talk of the universe, it includes me, because I started just having this admiration for this man who had a deeper voice. If he was a musician, he could just say, "My name is Dikembe Mutombo, and I'm from Republic of Congo." Like I say, he was bigger than life. He was larger than life. He was a tall man in his physique, in his structure, but he had a beautiful heart. Because his beautiful heart moved him a great deal, that he took most of his wealth and invested it in building hospitals in Congo. He did. The last time I checked, there's a hospital in Congo that he initiated it, invested a lot in the project, and he has stand out as one of the safest, one of the state-of-the-art hospital in the Republic of Congo. I remember one time he tried to solicit players in NBA to help him out. How that panned out, I don't know. But Dikembe Mutombo passed away today at the age of 58. He had suffered a great deal of some illness, according to family, but he lays to rest, knowing that he's ran a good race. He played a good game of life, more than basketball, because he raptured his soul and gave a lot to his country and to the sport. So we mourn the death of Dikembe Mutombo. I do. And it reminds us of the impact and the legacy we can leave, and if we rapture ourselves when we still have the opportunity. But I have to say, Dikembe Mutombo, man, if you talk of the country of Congo, and I hate to bring this up, the Zaire, the Zairois, the Suku star that Dikembe Mutombo came from. If you know the history of Congo, if you know the history of Zaire, it should have been one of the richest countries in Africa, let's just even take it to the world level. It was imperialized, it was colonized by the Belgium for a long time. King Leopold is a criminal of the highest order. People estimate that maybe 6 million people perished during his regime as a king who plundered, exploited, and enslaved the country for a long time for minerals that still happens today. Patrick Lumumba, the Pan-African leader that was assassinated back in the days. I'm hacking into history, and I see that wasn't enough. Here comes Mobutu Sese Seko, the despot, the North Korean masquerade as an African who plundered and exploited and just looted his country to bones, building villas in Belgium. These stories just make you just sad. But that's where Dikembe Mutombo came from. I think he's the first African that made basketball find a home in Africa for many athletes that have come after him, or many basketball players. Yep. So I'm giving you the background as to tell you that the potential that the continent of Africa has truly gone into the hands of criminals. There's another way to put it. So as I say that, I was going to say it's a moment of silence and a moment of reflection, a moment of appreciation for Dikembe Mutombo, who passed away today. Anyway, so in this episode of Tuko Riadha, number 60, Sitini. Is that what they say in Swahili? Sitini? Yes, Istini, whatever that is. Anyway, I'm appreciating here because I have a few things I was going to bring into the fray, into our thinking process as we share again and highlight and show love to our athletes who have come from the eastern part of Kenya, eastern part of Africa. And I think a few episodes ago, I started talking about this coming to America using the movie by Eddie Murphy as a phrase that I was going to use to say that coming to America for many student athletes back in the days, 70s, 80s, has been a really good thing. It's a building block that it has helped a lot of us. I'm one of the I'm one of the children. I'm one of the products of that process. And I have a lot to say about some athletes that came before me. And I'll go back to 1972. And there's an athlete, a student athlete that I don't mention in one of my episodes. I should have. I don't know what I'm choking today. I had a game this late in the evening. I referee some indoor games. Maybe the air quality wasn't great. I'm kind of drinking water and trying to keep myself fresh. Anyway, so I've talked about Henry Rono. He came in the 70s. He came to America in the 70s, went to New Mexico, Washington State University. I've talked Peter Rono, went to St. Mary's, Paul Ereng, Virginia, Ruth Waithera, he went to Arizona University. All these, Patrick Sang went to University of Texas down Longhorns. And so we've had this pipeline, we've had these students coming to America, and most of them came on this student athlete scholarship. And most of them have been successful. I talked of 1988 that we start to see the exposure and the training and the accomplishment in the Olympics for some of these athletes, namely the ones I've just mentioned. But I forgot somebody who I think if you hear his story, if you hear his accomplishment, his body of work, his curriculum vitae, or his resume, if you portfolio, I'll take him to be the epitome. I'll take him all the way to Mount Everest or Mount Rushmore of academia and academia and athletic. I'm talking about Michael Kipsugut Boit. That name, to those who are young, have no idea. I think right now he's a professor in Kenyatta University, the first of the kind that came through that process of coming to America as an athlete. Yeah, he came here back in the 1972. He went to a school in eastern New Mexico. He got his undergraduate from the school as an athlete and as a student. Later, during that period of 1972, he was one of those Kenyans that gave us a medal in Montreal. He got a bronze medal in 800 meters. He got bronze in a race that was won by David Waddell, an American who came way in the back. He was one of these, like a train just came in the back and won the gold. So Mike Boit's athletic accomplishment is that high for that Olympic. But more than that, he was a serious student. I'll just try to give you that narrative and zoom in into who he is. Because even with that accomplishment, winning a medal in the Olympics, it is said about him that before even he left Kenya, his coach talked about his commitment to education was the highest he's ever encountered in anybody before and after. Because for Mike Boit coming to America as a student athlete was just not just for athletics. I mean, as great as that is, as great as hardware medals have become in the sporting world, in the big stage, for him, he knew it had its limitations. I think his running career spans 15 years, but within the same time of 15 years, Mike Boit went to Stanford University after Eastern New Mexico and got 2 masters. And then he came down to Eugenia in Oregon and got a doctorate in education in 1986. I'm just giving you, this guy is an academia at the highest level, okay? This is an athlete at the same time. And it goes on from that I think in 1987, he chose to go back. He decided to go back and be a professor at, as I say, Kenyatta University in Kenya. That is no joke. That is not an easy path to take. I heard about him when I was in Kenya, and I think I ran into him one time at Nyayo Stadium. He was a man of very few words. I don't know how he became a teacher, but maybe he picked his pace, so to speak, during classes and teaching and all that. But he's a man of few words. He had a nice afro, well-dressed guy. He was just, his nose was straight. Everything about him was very few words. And I remember just seeing him there. I just heard that's Mike Boit, but I didn't know much about him. I was just a curious person running, training in Nairobi. And so that much I heard, I saw about him. Only to find out that even in 2014, after he went back to Kenya, he reinvented the idea of training, education in athletic world. He started some projects on how to change the way athletes train. I think he brought science into the training world, or training in the sport, because Kenyans, we are just, back in the times where when he was growing up, it was just raw talent. So I think for his work that he has started doing in Kenya and how to look at training scientifically and different ways that the Western are already trying to adapt, he was honored by the University of Glasgow in Scotland with an honorary degree in a doctorate honor degree. I don't know how that works. Did he go to school there? I don't know, but I think the body of work he had done. Excuse my dry throat. I'm really having a dry throat tonight. Anyway, but going to Mike Boit, yeah. So his work he had done in Kenya was recognized internationally, and I think he got that, what they call the Doctorate of Science from the University of Glasgow. It's an honorary thing they do. It's kind of they look at the work you've done and they acknowledge that to fit the criteria of science world. Anyway, so that is Mike Boit for you. And beyond that, what I find interesting about him is how committed he was as a student. Because for most of us, let me just speak for myself, having that balance, having what I call dual directionality, having the twin accomplishment, looking at things with the same intensity as an athlete to the Olympic level and as a student to the highest level is not something most of us balance very well, because they both demand a lot of commitment. They both are very physically engaging and very physically demanding, mentally and physically. And to come out at the top of your game in both is very rare. I say it's so rare that I missed it when it came to Mike Boit, because when you think about it, when we came to America, we came to this country as students. Athletic is just another component, so to speak. But most of the time, we hear so much about Kenyans in terms of athletics, not academia. And when they come as both, and they both accomplish bronze at Olympics, and a doctor and a professor in a university in Kenya, that's Mount Rushmore stuff. that is the apex. That is the zenith. That is the highest point of accomplishment. It is going beyond the Call of Duty, my friend. And I think Mike Boit is exceptional. It's rare, because I cannot name many student athletes that have done that from Kenya. I think Patrick Sang, who is the coach of Eliud Kipchoge, got a master's. I can name David Kipto, whom I know personally, Singoe, finalist in 1996, 800 meters. He got a master's in business or economics in LSU. I'm talking about people who went to Olympics, at the same time be able to accomplish certain level or high level of academia. So I can mention those that I know. Maybe there are more that I don't know. But those ones, if you talk of the most accomplished in this crop of athletes, nobody matches Mike Boit. I speak that with authority, I think. If anybody has anything, you can comment on that. But nobody has surpassed what Mike Boit did as a student athlete coming to America. Nobody. He's at the top by himself, as a doctor, as a professor. And it speaks volume, because we don't hear much about it. I think it's because of his demeanor too. He's a 143 guy in 800 meters. Don't get me wrong. He won all Africa Games. Apparently there's these Commonwealth Games, which I really don't care about. Maybe I'm very anti-colonial. Anything colonial British, I'm against all that Commonwealth nonsense games where the Queen shows up and waves. Now, oh, the Queen is dead. Sorry. Yeah, she used to wave left or right, the white glove. I think she used to wave this. Whatever. Can I make fun of the dead Queen? I can, because I think I have a right. I don't think so. Anyway, Commonwealth Games, he won Commonwealth Games in 800 meters. So he has those accomplishments. His athletic career is not diminished. It's not something you just look at and say there's nothing there. Bronze medalist, as I say, in Montreal. I think for me, when you think about people like him, Henry Rono, Ruth Waithera, and the people, and Sabrina Chebichiu, whom I talk about, they would have accomplished more if it wasn't for the restlessness and the unrest and the geopolitical unrest that was plaguing the world in 1976, where the African countries boycotted Montreal again, and Moscow was boycotted by almost everybody because of Russia invading Afghanistan. So we are talking of the two Olympics that some of these great athletes that I've talked about missed. Maybe we'll be talking different about Mike Boit. Maybe we'll be talking different about late Henry Rono, whom I talked about at length. So it is these times, they are coming of age at a time when the world is very unstable, and you don't hear a lot of accomplishment, because accomplishment in athletics is always seen through the lens of Olympics, World Championship, and any other form of championship. But for Mike Boit, bronze from Montreal, and a professor, my goodness, what an envy for some of us. Yeah, so one of the things that drives him even more after going to Kenya is that he reinvents himself. He becomes somebody who wants to empower. He wants to make it even a larger, he wants to create a project that's larger than what he already had, which is pretty much athletic focused, but not scholar focused. So he started a program known as KENSAP, KENSAP, with a friend, John Manners from US, where they try to look at bright students who come from underprivileged communities, and they are well accomplished as athletes, but they have good scholar aptitude, so to speak, maybe in SAT or the A's and better. And yeah, they formed this project that is still in place to this day, where they now is a different pipeline. Is strictly for those who are, it's almost like, you know what, you are going to Harvard, you are going to MIT school, Princeton, Stanford, Yale, Middlebury, all those, I'm talking of the elite schools in America. That became his focus. It has become his focus because he wants to see that not only are we exploiting athletics, but we're exploiting the scholar capacity or the student capacity within the same framework, but kind of adding value that is more scholarly. And I think that is to be applauded. I talked about how Kenya tends to play from the same template without adding value, without seeing something else that can elevate the status of being an athlete. And for me, when you talk of being an athlete, you'll have a decline. So, you know, everybody has a decline. You know, you can go to Olympics, some of them have, like Mike Boit, but now he has something to fall back on, which is his doctorate. And I think that's where sometimes the emphasis or the balance needs to be found. You can get both like he did, but it is an exceptional character. I was going to close with something kind of anticlimax to my my narrative today about Mike Boit. And by the way, before I forget, I met Philip Boit. Philip Boit Mike Boit is an uncle to Philip Boit. So I met him in Finland in 1996 during my trips when I used to go to Finland and live there during summers and race around Europe. And Philip Boit became somebody that is, what do you call this? It became a story within a story that is not very Kenyan. He's the only Kenyan, the first of its kind that has ever participated in Winter Olympics. Philip Boit went to Winter Olympics. It was in Tokyo in 1994, I think. He did cross country. Yeah, and he's the only one. I think he was the only one and the last one that I've heard of. Whether we've had anybody else close to that, I don't know. Philip Boit. How do you call it the other way? That was his uncle. Mike Boit I'm talking about was his uncle. And yes, he went to Winter Olympics. How does he do there? It was a story for the newspapers, for the television. It became a soap opera, but he participated. He did very well. I was proud of him when we were talking about him. He pretty much broke the ceiling for Kenyans in Winter Olympics. He's the first of his kind. He was the last of his kind. I don't know. That's what I know. Whether somebody else who has come before, no. But Philip Boit, as I remember, truly, first Kenyan to go to Winter Olympics. And it's a privilege for me to speak this because when I'm talking of his uncle, Mike Boit, I didn't know I was going to connect these dots. But you never know when you are going to connect the dots in life. So you never dismiss anybody, any conversation. And it reminds me of yesterday, I was in Portland downtown refereeing a game. And I was just getting my staff together to go to another game. And a gentleman came and just started talking to me. Yeah, and just chatting and saying, hey, how are you doing? I was just busy. I was sunny day, very nice downtown. We started talking half an hour later, we are talking about Prefontaine Classic. We are talking about Bowman, who is connected to Nike and the legends as he was. And now we are friends, good friends just from talking. And I shared with him a clip of myself racing in 1997 in Prefontaine Classic. I was rabbiting, or I was pacing the mile race. And it was a fascinating race because when I watched the clip, I remember everything in that race. Martin Kano was there, the son of Akip Kano. William Tanui, a gold medalist from 1992 Barcelona, was there. Laban Rotich, whom I raced with his brother when I was in Finland back in the days. Good names on the field. But before that, there was a moment for me that I forgot that just hit me. Bowman was being introduced. He's a legend. He's a household legend in America. This is no ordinary person. When you hear Bowman, it's like you've had Eliud Kipchoge. Those are Hall of Famers, okay? Whether he passed away or not, I don't know. But I was watching the introduction of my race, and Bowman was mentioned. And after they mentioned Bowman, my name, Joel Chestnut, was mentioned. I was like, in the same breath, it's an honor. It brings humility to my sense of how I've invested myself and how I've transversed, cross hands, shake hands, rub shoulders with these people that I have reverence and respect for. So when I speak about athletics, for me, I keep telling you this, is to me, it has a spiritual dynamic, it has spiritual ingredients to when I speak. And when I speak about it, I speak from the heart. It's not just intellectual stuff. Because like I say, it's almost a religion to me. So when I saw that race the other day, it was a clip somebody had it online. You can check Joel Chestnut, Prefontaine Classic 1997. I don't know, I can share it on my YouTube, but you can check it out. It's me. I still had hair on my head. I was good looking, I know that. I was just doing my 800 meters, pacing the mile, okay? So it is these connections, these meeting people that you don't know how things are going to unfold. That's why I learned from the best teacher, who's my father. And I'll tell my story one day about I came to America. It's very spiritual to me coming to America. I'll keep talking about myself. I think I shared a few things about my childhood. I'll get to a point whereby I've come to believe in my life, in this life, there's a spiritual dynamic. That spiritual dynamic, and I don't take it for granted. And my father took people seriously. He acknowledged people. He never dismissed people. It doesn't matter what age, where they're coming from. And I'm reminded too of a Nazarene who could just interact with people from all walks. Somebody one time says, I need to see. Somebody one time says, I just touch your garment. One time a woman said, I'm thirsty. Things like that. No dismissiveness, just acknowledging and humanizing because it has a face. That's the way I hope to live the rest of my life. And I hope that's my story I'm telling here in the story of Mike Boit and his brother Philip Boit, and how in meeting these people, somehow in my mind, in my life, they've come to mean something, and I can talk about them in this light. And I think there's another thing I'll end that is kind of where becomes almost anticlimax. Because in 1985, the Kenyan family, the athletic family, decided to pay homage or to honor or to put an event that is going to say, hey, you've done well, Mike Boit. Let's just put what they call, in 1985, they called it Boit Classic, where they're going to invite international runners to come to Nyayo Stadium, which was a big stadium. That was the only stadium back then that had capacity and he had a good track. I trained on that track for a long time, back when I was in Nairobi. And so they decided, well, let's invite some athletes. Let's have something like Prefontaine Classic, which happens every year now, but now it's become commercialized, it's professional, it's different. But it came out, Prefontaine Classic has the same beginnings. It was to honor one of the greatest middle distance runner back in the 70s that was great in America. Prefontaine Classic is named after him. They want to do that in Kenya, Boit Classic. And the Kenyan 3As, it was Kenya 3As, was Kenya Amateur Athletic Association. They made an attempt, it was a good gesture. I believe they meant well. They went around they didn't go around the world. I think they were contacting athletes and seeing who is going to show up to honor the almost retirement for Mike Boit, whom I'm talking about here. They had names like Edwin Moses, who was a world record holder for a while in 400-meter hurdles. Carl Lewis, I think, was still a world record holder. They invited Omar Khalifa, who was a great 800-meter runner from Sudan. There was another Senegalese they were going to invite. They had big names. Liz McLaughlin, the Irish long-distance runner back in those days. So they had this list of great athletes they wanted to bring here so they can honor Mike Boit in that event. Henry Rono was one of them. I think there were some few local runners who were invited to that event. And then it came the day. The day of reckoning came, my friend, and somebody dropped the baton. Few of those names I've just mentioned showed up. I don't think most of them showed up. Henry Rono showed up to honor the occasion. And I find it interesting that Henry Rono was not part of the whole idea, because even at that 1985, I think Henry Rono had accomplished a lot. But like I say, he had become a black sheep when it came to athletics because of his demeanor, his run around with alcohol, and the fact that he had stayed in America more than Mike Boit, who was, the local good old boy, which is okay. Okay, like I've talked high of him. I'm just saying, comparing the two, I've just wondered why Henry Rono has never received the same love. It's maybe because he stayed in America too long, maybe. But that's how Kenya looks at some people sometimes. Anyway, so the event came, and as I said, somebody dropped the baton, and it was an anticlimax. It was an embarrassment. There was a no-show, so to speak. The event was flat. People show up in the stadium. The officials were booed to death. I think some people wanted their throats, some blood. It was embarrassing, okay? I'm talking of, you have an occasion, you have a big event you've been promoting in television, newspapers, and nobody showed up for Mike Boit. I don't know how you correct that. And speaking as a Kenyan, I think sometimes you just have to say, you swallow your pride and say, we effed it up. Okay? It was embarrassing. It was the shamest of the shamest. And it maybe speaks to one thing. Mike Boit had surpassed his athletic accomplishment. Now he was a scholar. He was a professor. Maybe that's where he gets more love. He gets more acknowledged. He gets more respect. Because when it came to respect from the Kenya Athletic Association, if that was the moment of respect, and this idea of saying, let's anoint a man who had done a lot in athletics, they dropped the ball. They dropped the baton. We don't say they dropped the ball in athletics. We say you drop the baton. Sometimes it's very hard to pick it up in the relays, my friend. People are going fast. Yeah, it was really one of those moments you're saying, wow. It's almost like announcing that truly Mike Boit, as great as athletics was for him, he was a true student as students were supposed to be. And that's where he belongs. He's still a professor. He's doing very well. He was born in 1949, so you can calculate how old this guy is. I'm just giving you my perspective. And my perspective is my perspective, and I stand by it. And so in this episode, I just wanted to give a shout out to Mike Boit. And before you go, I'll tell you this. Before the Jamaican Usain Bolt. Kenyans had Boit. Do you like my poetry? Do you like the way I play with words? If you do, keep commenting, man. Keep sharing and keep liking, because that's all you're asked to do. I'm not asking you much. I'll do this part, you do your part, because we're in a relay of life, man. I have the baton. I pass it to you. Please don't drop it. The Kenyan Athletic Association did for Boit in 1985. I got to tell you one thing. The news and newspaper were like bulge, debacle. I don't know what else. There's a sports. I think he passed away. Roy Gashoi. And then there was Ezekiah Wepukulu. I remember these guys. I used to read newspapers. Like, you guys don't know what newspapers are. You have no idea. It's a newspaper. You read that there's no other thing you're going to do. Yeah, I remember Roy Gashoi. He was a great track and field journalist. Do you know I wanted to be a journalist at one time? It was my dream from day one when I was in primary school, high school. Maybe I'm a journalist after all, because I'm playing homage too to late Ezekiah Wepukulu. He was for Nation, and I think Roy Agashoi, if I ask his name, yeah. One of those guys. I used to read their material. I hope you are hearing me too, because I'm talking the same stuff they used to, and they used to entertain me in one way or another. So for this episode number 60, it was to say, yes, rest in peace, Dikembe Mutombo, the Sukus man from Congo. Boit, my friend, you've accomplished the dreams that some of us will never do, but we talk about you in high accolades. That was me, my friend. And you know, I'll say, love flows from this end, man. Let it flow, because upstream is love. I wonder how downstream looks like. That was episode 60 from me. Yep. Suku style.